Hodgepodge number 5. This is the sawdust burner version, and so I have been working diligently on making a sawdust burner, and I chose the one that was located in Drain, Oregon as my prototype sawdust burner. So I wanted to share what I've been working on so far with you. Right now I'm pretty much settled on the basic cone shape, and I've got most of it worked out as far as the exterior of the model goes, and this paper cone. Also, I've been working on the screen top of the burner, so I've pretty much got that worked out at this point. You'll see lots of different versions of that here, but there's really only one at this point that I'm happy with. So at this point, I'm just kind of finishing up in this project some of the exterior details, such as the vents that were placed around the base of the burner here, as you can see in this early prototype, and some of the other fine details to really make this whole model just really pop. One thing that's been really important along the way in this process is to come up with a way of making that conical shape without having to use some kind of a scaffold or something. So originally I used like a 3D printed core in order to produce this. So I printed a full hard shell 3D printed structure that was very firm, this one here, and then I wrapped the paper around this structure. But I thought, well, that's not really possible for a kit, so we need to come up with a way to do this without having to have this thing. So I worked closely with my friend Richard, and Richard is a great problem solver, that guy, Richard King. He's KMP Models, by the way. And so Richard said, hey, why don't we take some paper and we'll layer it sort of like bricks, like the way bricks are layered in a wall. We'll lay the paper out 4 or 5 pieces on top and 4 or 5 on the bottom, and then it would wrap around, and maybe it would wrap around evenly. And so the first few attempts I did with that, I did a little heavier paper, and it was kind of hard to get it to bend. But actually, I've had the best luck with just some sort of cheap construction paper, and this stuff's worked out really well, as long as I put some of these cardboard reinforcement rings on the inside. And so so far though, this is great, and I can run it through the printer, and it gets a nice printout on the outside of what's going on, where the screen should meet up, etc. So we're going to be talking more about how to make one of these paper shells here, and then what to do with the 3D printed parts to create this sort of configuration. This is to represent the iron scaffolding that on the real burner, this provides a lot of support and holds all of the sheet metal. So this paper at this point, this is going to serve as our quote-unquote sheet metal. It's just paper, it's not metal. But then we'll have the exterior iron framework that will fit over the top, and then I'll be showing you how to produce one of these burner tops here, this screen, if you will, which is actually foldable from 3D printed materials. So alrighty, without further waiting, let's get going and talk about how to make this happen. Alright, I just wanted to go over some of the materials here you're going to find in the kit. First of all, we're going to have some paper sheets, and these are going to make the conical structure that is essentially the sheet metal that is constitutes the conical shape of the burner there. So we've got the paper sheets, and from those we will cut these sort of construction paper units here, which we will need 8 of those, 4 on top and 4 on bottom. We'll put those together probably first in our procedure, all right? And then once we have the conical shape put together, we will insert these cardboard circles, and they will also help to create the conical shape of the paper here. It's going to lend a lot to push that outward and shape things up well. Also then we will have what we call the PLA side frame units, and these are essentially representing the iron framework that held and contained much of the sheet metal material that was on the real burners. And we're going to connect these together by virtue of actually literally welding this plastic together with a soldering iron. And so you'll find that's a easier task than it sounds. So those are the PLA side frame units. Should be an extra one in there. Also, we've got the materials we need for making the top part of the sawdust burner. So this is what I call the basket, or the screen basket frame, and it's got several parts that are all 3D printed. And so this curved part here that you see is what I call the spider, or the basket frame part there. So it's got 20 arms, and there's little tabs along each arm, and those are used to align these rings, which are the internal support rings. These are the internal support rings here. So on the bottom of the structure we have what we call the base ring, and the base ring has 20 slots, and each slot takes one of the arms from the spider. And then on the bottom of the structure we'll put something that I call the flat, and it goes right on the bottom like that, and it aligns with the arms, and it helps to provide a little bit of rigidity in the XY plane, and that's what was on the real one. So that'll help make this. Last but not least, we've got the hose recut, and that is what we're going to use to impart the look of the screen over the top of the basket. Also, we've got some exterior details in the kit, including these exterior support rings, and these are actually functional too, because they add considerable, again, just working on the shape of this whole structure. We've got nothing, we don't have any kind of a cone or anything to help guide us, so we're going to be making this from scratch. And so having the supports on the inside and on the outside, that's the way to do it. And so these will do both that function, plus that's how they did it on the real one. So that's what these are about, and a few different sizes there. We've got the vents that go around the bottom, and I didn't know it when I made this one, but there's actually vents that go around just right along this lowest layer here. On every single column you'll find a large vent, larger than the ones in the middle. So we've got the bottom vents, and then we have the mid-level vents. The bottom vents are every column, and mid-level vents are every other column. All right, more to come on that. We've got some ladders, and we have a little scaffold here to make a main door. And the main door on the real one was quite dented and bent up, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to be able to replicate that. And I thought, ooh, this would be an opportunity to put some aluminum over this frame, and you could kind of ding it up and then paint it. So that's why it's just a frame, and there's no other materials for that. So last but not least, in at least some of the kits, the initial kits will have a soldering iron, which I'll probably call a welding iron from here on out. All right. And these are some of the adhesives we'll be using. We've got Elmer's glue, something called canopy glue, and wood glue. Also, you might find it helpful to have your white glue in a small container that you can dip into. I find that canopy glue is essential for putting the basket screen assembly together. This material is fast drying, kind of a refined white glue. It's a little bit different formula. It's a little bit thinner, and dries very quickly, and that's a very useful thing when trying to get the basket together without having to hold the parts forever. But just a few words about PLA and what that is. PLA stands for polylactic acid, and that's a material that's very much like plastic, but it's actually not plastic. There's no petrochemicals in it whatsoever. It's made from corn, actually. And so it melts at a fairly low temperature. So once you put your structure together, we don't want to get that close to any heat source over about 150 degrees. We want to kind of keep that in a relatively, room temperature is fine, and it'll last forever. But this is the material that we can actually connect it together by virtue of welding it with a soldering iron at a fairly low temperatures. 200 Celsius is roughly 375 Fahrenheit, something like that. So, and we could connect these parts, these individual units, into a framework like this. That's going to be very important, critical for making our burner. So again, PLA, polylactic acid. It's nothing new. It's been around for a long time now, and it's a corn derivative. If you're worried about fumes in this process, it produces essentially no fumes. And also for certain parts of the process, I would strongly suggest a magnification lamp like this one. This isn't the Ott brand, but kind of an off brand. Got that one and one like this, and these are just excellent for working under to see what you're doing and also shed some additional light on the matter. So the first thing that needs to be done is we have to cut out these little wedged shaped pieces of paper from these photocopies. Okay, so I like to use the paper cutter for that. You may have a hobby knife, that would be great. A hobby knife and a ruler would work just as well, maybe a little slower, doesn't matter. I find that for the curved edges, I like to use my scissors for that, and so I'll be showing you that in just a few moments. All right, so on the paper cutter, what I do is I trim a little bit of this off here. And I've got these little lines here that extend out, and so those are good little guides. So once I have those trimmed, then all I have to do is line up one of those long lines with the edge of the cutter, and there we go. So that's kind of how I proceed from there and keep working through these. Note I only need 8 of these. There's 3 on a page, so it should leave you with a couple extras. The more carefully you work this part of the process, the better, I should say, because we want that cone to be just right so that it fits perfectly inside and snug up against the PLA wire frame. I've got my trusty scissors here, and I'm going to use those to cut these curved parts of this paper. Yes, sirree. Neatness gets extra points. Note I don't cut through more than one of these at a time when I'm cutting the individual pieces. Yeah, you need these little edges to be as precise as you can get them to be. That will ensure that your cone comes out the right circumference in order to make it match. Alrighty, so I cut them all up here. So I've got a few extra ones, and I can pick and choose the best of the litter, so to speak. There they are. It's a royal flush. Ooh, I don't know how to play cards. Okay. Alrighty, so this next step is pretty straightforward. We're gonna have 4 on the bottom and 4 on the top, staggered like bricks, and I will demonstrate. Alrighty, so I like to use a little yogurt container here to hold my glue, and then this is just a yogurt lid that I cut up, made a little spoogey thing out of, and so I'm going to move 4 of them up. Actually, I'm just going to work with 2 of them here to get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap. First, I got to find this midline that goes right down, this vertical line here. That's important. It goes right down the middle of a little piece of paper, and so I'm going to line up the outer edge of one piece with that line in the middle, just like that, okay? And that's how I'm going to glue it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to have another one come back from around here like that, and I'm going to keep going, all right? Staggered like bricks, okay? So on a sheet of glass, you can work on paper too. It's just I tend to use the same surface over and over, so I just scrape the glue off the glass, but let's put a little bit of white glue on there, just like that. God, I hope I'm in the screen. All right, great. And I'm not real specific about it, as long as it's lined up, just splitting that line almost in half, that vertical center line. Okay, just like that. All right, and then I officially wipe all of my extra glue on my pants. Sorry about that, but that's what happens. And I scrape my glass sheet with my rubber spatula there. All right, 1 down, and I just keep rolling. So there's the next one. That's where the next one's going to go, right there. I'm going to use that edge right there to guide me and hold this. This is going to go right up next to that edge, fit right in there, and then I'm going to check it to make sure it's in line by looking at it here. Okay, if I know if it gets too out of whack, you know, a millimeter isn't going to kill it, but getting too far out will. So what do we always say around here? Quality is not a matter of chance. Well, a little chance never hurt. A little luck never hurt. All right, so I'm already on the 4th one here. I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that Bondo scraper just for pushing down on things. Scrape some glue off of there. It doesn't really matter if you proceed from this edge or that edge, as long as you don't, you got to keep them, we want only 2 layers here. Layers, the edges are thin, so sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. I'll make sure that I've got glue over every square millimeter of that apart or I'm doing that bond, because I don't want to have anything lifting or coming apart or doing anything weird. You can see where I'm a little off on my cut on that one. Maybe you can see that, I'm not sure, but just a tiny bit. It's not going to ruin it. Might make it a little tighter fit though in the end of the whole deal. We'll see. I'm getting a little bit of glue on my surface here, and it's starting to pull a little on the construction paper, so I'm just mindful to make sure I've got as much of that scraped off of there as possible. You don't, again, have to use a glass sheet, and you can go way slower than I'm going. But if it does pull on the construction paper a little bit, it's not the end of the world. It's just adds a little caricature to your model in the end. Okay, so for right now, that's it. We got 4 on top and 4 on bottom. We need to let this dry totally before we can bring it around to do that last final bond. Otherwise, all this will come apart. So it's got to dry flat. So for me, what I do at this point is I flip my glass over. I've got a nice dry side here, and I put it in my big heater box. But so it'll take just a few minutes, but that way we can continue with the video. But at home, let it dry for an hour. Should be fine. And this heater box is so helpful to me that I even dry my tennis shoes in here sometimes. So we'll get those out of there, and there we are. That in a few minutes that'll be all done. While the paper cone is drying, I'm getting set up here to do my first weld, and so let's do some practice welds first. All right, we're going to do some practice welding. So I've got a scrap piece of the PLA material, my flush cutters, a pair of tweezers, and my welding iron that's now ready to go. I've got the welding iron set. There's a little wimpy little dial here, and you can adjust it from 200 to 400 Celsius. And I'm turning it up. Okay, and there I'm turning it down, and I want you to turn it all the way down so that it's on 200. Okay, so it should be all the way counterclockwise as far as it'll go. Okay, so I've got a scrap piece of PLA here. What I'm going to do is just cut off just something to play with here. Okay, so with my flush cutters, I'm just nipping off like a little section. I'm going to weld 2 little pieces of this together. Doesn't really matter. Pretending it's the first time I ever did it. Okay, so let's say I just wanted to like stick that together right there. Okay, just like that, without it sticking to me. Okay, and so I don't want to burn myself, so I'm always cautious. The tip is pretty hot. It's not killer hot, but it's pretty hot. And I come in here, use my tweezers. I'm gonna, okay, there's little threads, but I'm gonna hold that down on there and just gonna work in the top of that iron. There, I did a little too much. Okay, when that cools, which it is now probably cool, we've got our first little welded component there. All right, and I can just play around with that and get comfortable with that for as long as I want. Just cutting off some scraps here. All right, there's the welding. Oop. I'm kind of trying to hold, there we go. I got my finger over there. I can hold the other one at the same time. All right, so the stuff sticks together pretty easily. And I don't think you'll even be welding anything as small as what I've chosen here. But that's it. Those parts are stuck together pretty darn good. Okay, they will come apart. This makes, I mean, I can't smell anything. So as far as the fumes go, it's very, very low quantity, if anything. Okay. All right. So it's working, and you got to just play with that a little bit to get a feel for it. Yeah, so if you drape it over your soldering iron, like I just kind of accidentally did there, yeah, it's going to melt all over it. So you got to kind of keep your soldering iron out of it. Okay. Here we go. We've got two pieces right here, end to end, just like that, little T. Now this takes a little more energy because they're bigger. It's actually maybe a better demo. So I might work one side. I'm just pretty much melting and grabbing some material from one and pushing it over onto the other one there. I'm not really sure if that's what real welder people do, but hey, that's what I'm doing. And I'm gonna flip it over and do the other side. So right in the middle, it's not in the, you know, where these two meet, it's not welded there. There's no connection. So I'm really just connecting the exterior surfaces just right where I can push some stuff over there. But again, just, I mean, these are larger pieces and there's no fumes that I can detect really. All right, and there's that little joint. Now it's not going to be super strong yet, maybe a little bit more when it cools. And again, in the center of where I've connected those two, there's probably nothing connected, but that's structurally for models, you know, that's not bad right there. I could definitely break it off of there. Okay, all right, okay. So moving on, we're going to do our frame. Okay, so on the frame, I've got the two pieces here, and I really don't need any tools other than the iron. And I normally do this on a magnifying lens. I am not able to do that and get good footage, so I'm just going to wing it here, eyeballing it with just my reading glasses, and we'll see how that goes. But up here at the top is where I'm going to start. And sometimes there's a little bead of material like right there, and it kind of protrudes and tends to prevent the two sides from coming right up close to each other. So I'm just going to use the iron and I'm just going to roll right over that edge there just a little bit there, not too much. I don't want to melt, you know, the whole thing. I just want to get it a little bit, but just to kind of beat down that little bead is just an artifact from the 3D printing process right there. So I'm just rolling the tip of my iron right over that, and that smooths it out pretty quick. And then these two edges are going to come right up next to each other. Great. All right, and you have to do that at the bottom too, maybe. I'll worry about that later. All right, so there's that, and I'm just going to pull right across the top just like that, and I'm working my way down. And I like to kind of skip and just put the weld kind of right where those horizontal, they're vertical to you in the camera, but they will be later, horizontal metal iron bars would be. Okay, so I'm just kind of going every so often here. And I think you'll find, you know, once you get the hang of this, it's pretty fast work. I mean, almost as fast as you could lay down a bead of CA in that joint. And I'm not really a CA person, but I have it. I don't use it that often. But it seems to me like this is pretty efficient. And you could also use CA if you were really worried about this thing. You could do this first, and then you could drop that CA right in that gap, and it would just fill right in there. Okay, so I've got the one edge done there. All right, so I'm going to flip it over now. Sorry about the zoom here. Let's just zoom out for a minute and see what I've done. Okay, there's the two halves. All right, and so now I'm going to flip it over. Boom. I'm on the back side now. And I'm going to do a little more on the back side than I did on the front side. And I don't know why I do that. It's just, I feel like I just really, here's my opportunity to secure the thing. So I'm gonna do that. And again, just doing the best I can to just demonstrate this whole welding thing here. Okay. I can get it focused. Now here you can, for some reason it seems like I could just kind of melt it just going right down the gap here. And they're not going to see this. It's going to be hidden behind, so you might as well make this strong. There's nothing aesthetic about it. And at 200 Celsius, I can apply a little bit of pressure and not just blowing right through it. It takes a little bit of work to get the melt done. And that sort of makes you, want to tempt fate and increase the temperature. But I think, if you were new at this, and I've certainly experimented with that, but I think this is probably adequate for this right now. I would caution against experimenting with the temperature at this point. As you bought this expensive kit, we want to make sure we make it. Now I just barely touched one of those vertical bars, or horizontal bars, sorry, and it kind of stuck on there for a second, but I was able to get it back off, so I don't think it did too much damage. All right, so that we've got two of them. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that for all of them. So two of them hooked together on both the top and the back side. All right, you can do that for two more. So we have a total of 4. Again, I'm just kind of rolling this corner here. These ones don't seem to need it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's just luck of the draw. Okay, and I want to do that back side. And I can't see this very well, and so what I want to say is, if I weren't videotaping this, I would totally have my magnifying lamp here, and I would be working exclusively under the magnifying lamp. Let me just make that a lot easier. I've done it so many times now I can almost feel what I'm doing. The video is not even in focus. There we go. Working top to bottom, bottom to top, doesn't really matter. All right, there's 3. 1 to go. All right. Gonna put 1 bead on the back side, right there. Now I have a full ventilation system running, well, available, I should say, in this room, and it's not even running. And I'm such a wimp when it comes to fumes, so if there were fumes, I would definitely have that thing going. But that just seems to be one of the great benefits of this whole thing, is that you're just melting such a small amount of this material. I think if you were to melt a lot of it, sure, it would get stinky in here and you'd be breathing bad fumes maybe, but so the fact that it's not petrol based really doesn't have anything to do with it. It would produce bad smoke if it were wood, but it's such a small amount of material that's being melted, you just can't hardly tell. Okay, all four are now connected, and we pretty much have this assembly up and ready to go. All right. So meanwhile, our paper material is probably totally dry in that pink box thing. So we're gonna go back over there and complete that. Set this aside for the time being. Okay, so this is now nice and dry, and I've got a few things here. I've got my paper that I glued, I've got my glue and my little applicator swatch thing, and so there's that. And I've got the 3 cardboard rings. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this glue job here. I'm going to connect all this together, all right? So what I want you to do is take this and just curl the edge over a little bit there. I didn't mean to apply that glue. And just roll it up and make a little trumpet out of this thing, okay? Not so that we can make trumpet noises, but what we're doing, of course, is we're rolling this, and it's going to help impart a curvature to it. It's going to facilitate making it easier to glue this whole thing together, all right? So, and also once I get it kind of trumpeted up there, like I have it, then I can kind of work these edges a little bit, and kind of, it just tends to want to not bend. It wants to kink on us right there where the seams are, and so I just kind of massage that a little bit, kind of improve that. I make the trumpet one way, and then I make it the other way also. Actually, you don't even need to do that. Just, it's great, just like that. Look at that, that's plenty. Okay. Where you're going to line those edges up is going to be right halfway through the last one there, and then this edge right here, you can see I didn't trim it off very well, so I have to kind of line up those lines right over each other. Is where it's going to go. See, it goes this way. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So right now I'm practicing getting this all dialed before I put the glue on it. Okay, so now I know that's going to be right where I'm going to want that, and it's not going to be a cone yet, you know, not until we get the rings in there, but for right now that's what I want to do. So now I want to glue that, so I'm going to go ahead, grab the glue, a little wiper, and liberally apply some Elmer's glue. All over there. Now I can't really work in the flat, you know, whether on the glass or anything, so I'm just kind of all over the place here, and that's a little tricky, but I'm going to line those edges up. Now this glue wants to dry. It absorbs into the construction paper really fast, so it's important I get things lined up relatively soon, and press on this thing and seal the deal with my fingers here. I'm just working it inside and out just to make that last final bond real nice. I've got those edges lined up good. I think this is going to be okay. Right there. Okay, so that needs to dry really well before we can go on to the ring. So let's put that back in the pink box. So meanwhile, the cone is drying, so I can work on creating this screen basket here. This is the very top part. So I'm going to go ahead and again go through the parts here. We've got this part here I call the spiders, just because it's got so many arms. It's got these little nubs along the arms. I've got this part here called the flat, goes on the very bottom. I've got this ring with the little slots around it, tiny little holes. Let me see if I can get that on the screen there. You can see the little holes there. Okay. And then I have the rings. Now these are what I call the internal support rings for the basket right here, and there's 3 of those. I've also got my handy side cutters and my canopy glue and a paintbrush. I think I mentioned my tweezers. So what I need to do first is to remove this material that's on the outside of the spider. So this is basically just a big circle that helps to hold these arms in place during the 3D printing process. We don't really need this material here. In fact, it's in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and take my cutters and I'm just going to push them up against the side and then cut. All right, I'm just going to do that all the way around in one direction and then all the way around in the next direction. Okay, just working my way along there. There's 20 of them, so it takes a little while to get around there. Okay, so now I just flip it over and go the other way. Guess it just makes it easier for guys like me to keep track what's going on. Okay, so now the spider is all ready to go. Pretty much trimmed off all the extra stuff. Just I see a couple of spots where I didn't do that great of a job, so I'm just going to kind of get a little more flush there. I want to make sure that these ends fit down into the slot of the base ring. All right, those should go. Here's the base ring, and there's that. So this goes in that. So what we need to do is get a little canopy glue, and I really like canopy glue for this because it dries fast. So I just pull a little out there. I don't know about you, but if you use this glue, you'll find the top of this clogs up right here unless you hang on to that cap. I think that's the way to go. Even then it might clog up. So I just dip the end of one of the spider arms right in the glue and fit that right down into that slot. Oh, see, I didn't trim it very well. Oop, now I bent it, so I'm going to have to start over. I messed it up. Cut. Alrighty, so I cheated and I went ahead and made a brand new one. And this time I'm not able to work under the magnifying lens and do the video at the same time. So this time I did it underneath the magnifying lens, and with my eyesight that was a huge improvement in the quality. I was able to get the flush cutters right up next to the side arms here and remove that material. So I think you'll find this is just going to fly together now. Okay, I'm going to have the base ring here, I'm going to dip the arm in there, and it's going right in the hole. Right in the hole, right in the hole. There we go. Alright, I'm going to pinch that with my thumb and forefinger. I'm going to apply a little glue to the... I got to find the opposite ones right there. Okay. Then I grab my tweezers and I bring it around, and I got to make sure I get the right hole here. So I'm looking, I get the opposite hole. Once I get that, I can let go, and the very next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my thumb on this thing. I've just got to switch hands here. Got my thumb right on the top of it, so I'm pushing down, not hard, just gently, just enough to make sure that those little side arms there are not going to come whipping out. Then I can actually pivot this under my thumb too a little bit, but more on that later. I'm going to glue approximately 90-degree angles to that one. I got to count. There's 3 here, 3 holes. There's the 4th one. It's going in the 4th one right there. You don't want to get off because it's fixable, but it's just a pain. All right, and now I'm going to spin this under my thumb. Okay, the whole thing. I'm going to pivot it very gently. Okay, because I got to get to that opposite side. This thing is spring loaded, and so you don't want it to get away from you. So pick one of these two, pick them both if you want. Apply the glue. Make sure I got this in the camera here. Okay. And I'm going to bend those over and place them in the hole. So I've got 3 here with no glue. I count holes 3, 1, 2, 3, and then this 4th one has the glue. It's going right in the hole. I got my thumb on it, just holding it gently between the thumb and my forefingers there. And then this 5th one can go right in there. Okay, once you got that many, you can pretty much just start working your way around, and as long as you don't get too many on one side, you should be good to go. Again, just make sure you're keeping your thumb right on top of that thing, because the spring tension just gets more and more. But what happens is once you get to the end, I think it's gone, because then they're all in there and they're all pushing out equally. There, I did another little rotation. I don't know if you saw that, but probably do these 3. Again, making sure it's getting the right holes here. I find it's easier to get off on putting them in the slots than you might expect. And I've done it many times now. Another rotation, apply a little glue. And just a couple to go again, but I'm keeping my thumb on that thing because I really don't want to lose it now. And you might try practicing with this just without the glue, just to see if you can get them all in there, and practice spinning the complex, the whole thing, underneath your thumb. Okay, I got them all. So at this point, they're probably going to stay put. All right. Thinking they're going to stay put. And that needs to dry just like that. We want that to get nice and dry. Kind of like pushing on that thing. All right, and you could do this if you wanted to. I don't think you need to though. The next step, we're going to use these interior rings, and they're going to put a little bit of pressure laterally outbound on this structure to just give it just the right shape. Okay. Meanwhile, our paper is burning up. Okay, so the paper is done, and there's our cone. It's not exactly round yet, is it? All right, well, we're going to fix that right now. We've got our 3 rings. Rings A, B, and C, and the white glue, and this cone shape. It's not really a cone yet, but I'm going to work on it a little bit here first, and I'm just going to kind of, again, sort of massage some of this material, I guess that's the word, and bring about a little bit better shape. Some of them just are very dented inward, so that's going to need considerable flexing first. That will help. Okay, so see there, it already kind of improved a little bit. I'm just kind of looking for the parts where it goes inward. Okay, seem to be right on the joints. All right, that'll do it. That's good. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the smallest one and practice just fitting it in there. Just like that, down inside, all right? Now the goal here is to get this in the same plane or parallel with the top of the cone. Now, I'm not going to apply glue just yet. I want to make sure I can do this. This takes a little practice and fooling around. Just if you, and I like to take the cone and set it upside down, but if you do that, be careful not to damage the top paper. So you got to just be gentle. It is just paper. And now there, that helped me get it right. If I push it too far, it's going to create a curve on the surface of the cone that I don't want. All right, so it's got to be just right, and I'm pretty close there to making it just about right. Just kind of seeing, looking around to see how far down it is. If I can make it even about a ½ an inch all the way around the edge, that would be good. Oh, I screwed it up. All right, I think I can do it though. At this point, my confidence has grown, and I'm pretty sure that I can accomplish this task with some glue on it. So what I'm going to do is take it out. I'm going to put a little bit of glue. I don't really need this thing, but just in about maybe 4 spots. Okay, 3, 4, right on the edge there. It's going to make contact, and those edges, I'm going to fit it up in there. Those are going to be the primary contacting spots there. This comes back out later when we go to put the basket in there, okay? So that's why we're only gluing it in 4 spots. And this ring tends to want to slide back out the cone. So you got to kind of stay on it a little bit until you know it's going to stay in there. Once you know it's going to stay put, then you can move on to the next one. Nice and parallel to the top as much as possible. And snug, but not too snug. I can see I got a little bit of a bump right there. It's probably all right. And it could be because there's nothing pushing out in the middle. So I'm thinking I'm good to go. I'm going to move on to the next ring now. Okay, but that one is in there. All right, and you can see it's it's making it round. All right, this one's going in again. Practice. Push it in there. Make sure that's going to work out. One thing I want to mention, you see this little piece of tape here? It's because I glued this together with wood glue. So when you get these rings, they might not be, depending on how I manufacture them, they might not be glued together. And you will need to just finish off this little joint with a little bit of wood glue. Even paper glue would be fine. I was using wood glue because it was faster. And I just pull a piece of tape across it. It helps kind of hold it closed until it dries. Okay, so you might have to do that step. Back to fitting it in there. And just seeing how that's going to go. Again, pushing but hard, but not too hard. Firmly. Okay, and that's helping it out. It's kind of morphing it into a cone shape. It's not perfect cone, but it's really close. I'm going to put some glue. Now this one is more permanent, so all the way around the edge. I say more permanent because I'd like to think that at the end of this thing you could have some options. You could convert it over to real metal or whatever you might want to do to experiment with it, but it is a kit, so you might not want to try that sort of thing. All right, we've got, in it goes, and far but not too far, firm but not too firm. I wish I could give you a pounds per square inch force yield here value, but I can't. So the more you practice that ahead of time, the more your confidence is going to be about gluing it. Because once they go in with the glue, I mean, I could take it out right now, but it's more or less permanent at this point. I got a little bit of a bump right there, but I'm not, I think that might be okay. As long as it's not way down there. And the last one, check that out. Make sure it fits. Might have to kind of work the edge a little bit. There it goes. Okay, fits great. That's the easiest one. And we're going to glue that in there. And you could use a brush for this. I don't know, I just happen to have this here, but it's kind of messy. I actually got a specially dedicated pair of pants just for this job. So I can wipe it on my pants. Okay. Now, when I go to put the final details on, there is such a thing as a door. And of course, if you got a door on there and you're looking in and you're seeing cardboard, that's not cool. So again, you might want to consider, if you're really hot on making the interior look great, you might have to come up with your own way of supporting this. But it needs to be a cone right now so that we can go on with the next step, right? And a cone shape. So this is what I've figured out for you to do at home with cardboard and construction paper to make this shape. There it is. Let's let that dry, and then we'll go on to the final weld of the wraparound framework. Alrighty, we are ready to go. I've got the cone and the framework that we put together earlier, and so now is the time we're going to wrap this around and see if we can make the final seal here, and hopefully everything will fit well. And it looks like it will work out pretty good, just kind of testing there and just seeing how those ends are going to meet up. So it's always kind of not sure, but it seems like it's lately been hitting just right on the mark, so that's great. And I'm going to try to do this. Well, maybe I can get my magnifying lens in here. I don't know if it'll ruin the video or what, but I'd love to be able to magnify what I'm doing so I can see what I'm working on. It just helps me do a better job and just makes life easier in general. So let me just take a look here and see how that looks in the camera. Oh, that's not too bad. All right, I've got a hot 200 degrees Celsius iron back here, and I want to make sure it's no hotter than that. And so I'm actually got the material not pushed all the way down around the cone, because really I'm just using the cone right now as a sort of a structure to kind of support this task. I'm not actually going to attach it to the cone. So I'm going to get under here and make sure everything's lined up and push a little bit with my thumb, hold things together well, make sure the edges are nice and proximate. You know, actually I can see I need to round off here a little bit. There we go. That little nub, that 3D artifact, printing artifact thing. Okay, I've got things pretty darn close together there. I'm futzing around here, but I'm getting it. Kind of particular about the start here. All right, that'll do it right there. It's done. I'm going to work on the very top part of it here. A little bit of what I call PLA welding going on. Okay, yes, and I'm working under my magnifying lamp, which just for me makes it so much easier. I just can't imagine doing it without it. Now I just need to work my way down, and I'm just using that cone just to kind of basically just support the plastic. It's not plastic, but I call it plastic sometimes. Plastic. I'm working my way down here. Okay, to be continued. So again, I'm just holding this both these sides together. I'm literally just using this cone as merely a shape to hold it. I'm not attaching it to the cone. Somehow I gotta hold it there just enough to allow me to make this little connection here. Just like that, all the way down. So my iron's on 200 Celsius, which is the lowest setting on this particular model. Which you can get one of these irons on eBay for roughly $8 with free shipping. Or you can get one in a kit if you get one of the early kits. If you're an early bird kit orderer. I'll try to get you a soldering iron. I may get a few of them and offer them on my website just to keep them around. You can get them there with no price increase, no markup. I really want people to try this whole PLA soldering thing. I think it's pretty cool. If you go on my website and look at Oregon Coast Railroad page, you'll see there's a photo there of the Tillamook County Grain Cooperative. It's all printed in PLA, flat and welded up, folded up and welded. I was pretty excited about it when I did that. It's a little plug for my model railroad. Right. Getting to the bottom here. Fitsing around. There we go. I like to kind of push in on it just a little bit so that I know it's not going to kink back out at me. And what I'm going to do is, I'm almost finished here, and when I get this done, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do what I call sneak inside. I'm going to sneak in there and weld on the inside, which is a little bit tricky. So now I'm going to eject the cone. Okay, that's over there. I've got the seam right here, and now I'm flipping it over, and I can come in from the bottom. That's the easiest. I got to hold it there and keep it from rolling away on me. And what I want to do, and I like to work under the magnifying lens. Right now I'm not, but normally I do, and I don't have a camera in my way. And I just kind of, I really want the magnifying lens. Bring that into the situation. If I do, though, it'll be right in the way of the camera, yeah? Oh, it's just got to be right down in there like that. But you can't even see it. Alright, fine. I'm going to go blind here. Going blind, folks. Can't be held responsible for the outcome. So, what I'm trying to do is do a better job welding on the inside of this thing than I did on the outside, just to give it a little extra strength. And this will be up against the cone, so you won't be able to see it. But I don't want to make a boo-boo either. I just want to do a nice job. So I can only get about halfway in there. Watch your fingers with the iron. Don't iron yourself. Okay. I flipped it around. So now I got to go through the narrow end. Don't hit the iron on the PLA, except for right on the tip where you want to. You just kind of pull on it there a little bit. You don't have to push it around too much. It'll melt. That's about the deal right there. Okay. All right. So we got that. I'm going to set the iron down for a minute and checking this out. Let's see. Does it go down? Does it go down enough? I am liking that a lot. It goes all the way to the bottom. It fits snug. There's no loose spots. I think we have a winner. Now what I want to know is, once we get this screen on the basket, is that going to fit inside this lip? And that's what I've been just testing every time I make one of these things, to see how consistently I can reproduce that. And if I can just do it over and over and over, then I think that the customers can do it. So good. So the next step is to put the screen on the dome. Hey there, I'm back. Roger here. I'm building a screen for the top of one of the sawdust burners, such as this one right here. Okay, so I'm putting together this plastic, or it's, I should say, PLA, polylactic acid basket, and I want to put rings such as these ones right here, here, and then there's going to be one right here as well. And so this isn't really the one I'm working on. I'm working on this one. This is going to go on top of our sawdust burner. It's going to prevent all the sparks from coming out. So these little nubs right along here, that's where I want these internal support rings to align. So I've got three sizes, small, medium, and large. And the one that I'm going to put in first is the largest one. And that needs to align, if possible, as close to possible with these little protubrating nubs on all of these spider arms all the way around this whole thing. So what's going to happen is it's going to go in there, and it's not going to want to go all the way up there. It's going to kind of sit just below those. But I'm going to apply a little bit of canopy glue to each one of these nubs and then fit it on there and keep working it around and around. At first, that canopy glue is going to behave like a lubricant, and it's going to keep pushing the ring back at me. But as it begins to dry, and it does dry fairly quickly, it will begin to grab onto the ring. So I've got my paintbrush, I've got a little canopy glue here. I'm just going to go around, I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to all those places here. All the way around. And I can add more. I can add more of this. It dries very clear and very thin. Canopy glue is a good glue for sticking materials of different types of materials together. Okay, so here's the ring. I'm going to fit it in there. And I'm just going to go around and start pushing. And I've got my magnifying lamp here, so I can work under that, I hope. I can keep things in focus. So what I do is I align it with the tabs, and I just keep working my way around. And by the time I get back around to where I started, I don't think they're going to be in the right spots anymore. But I'm just going to go around again and again until the glue finally starts to kick in and take hold. My thumb out of the way. I really don't want to interfere with the touching of the sides. I don't want to be pressing on any of the sides at this point, because it'll affect the shape of the whole thing. So this is kind of a sensitive issue here, so to speak. A sensitive procedure, rather. And what this is doing is, as I'm getting this into position, oh, I just off the screen a whole bunch. Okay. As I'm getting this into position, it's applying just a little bit of an outward force on all of these arms, and it helps to give this whole thing a shape that's just a little bit different. It's a little bit more vertical at the sides. And that's truly what I saw when I observed the drain sawdust burner. One thing I noticed was how the sides of the sheet metal sides were sloped, and then this basket just at the sides is shot almost straight upward. So I wanted to preserve that in my kit and really get that. Okay, so I think once you get close and it's starting to dry, you can kind of squeeze these just a little bit with the tweezers there. Not sure if that's going to show up on the video, but okay. And that just kind of presses into that glue, and it'll stay put at that point. So the glue gets real rubbery. Okay, I think that's there. It wants to pop up a little bit. Now if I add more glue at this point, it's going to act like a lubricant again. It may loosen things up, so I don't want to use it maybe until this stuff is really dry. I don't think that I need more at this point though. It's looking pretty good. That was kind of a winner. Sometimes this takes a little longer to get this accomplished. Once I have this, and I'm convinced it's not going to go anywhere, I can move on to the middle level one. And then the last one is at the top, and it pretty much just drops right in easy. Okay, so that's great. It's all on there. It's all lined up. Oop. I'm happy with that. So I've got this support ring inside and in line with all those tabs. Okay, so next step. Canopy glue. Should keep the top on that. Go through and all the next series of tabs and this ring right here. Okay. All right, I've got glue on all the tabs. I drop this in. And again, I think I might be fighting it a little bit, maybe not as much. But what I want to do is get that in line with all those tabs as the glue is drying. Hope I don't go out of view here. If you get the canopy glue on your tweezers, you got to get it off of them because it's super sticky. That's what jeans are for, in my humble opinion. I can feel it really starting to stick right there. It just takes just a minute and it just starts to go off. Those guys are right on it, so I could give them a little squeeze. So if you don't accomplish this exactly, what's going to happen? The basket might just have a little bit more relaxed shape. Certainly not the end of the world, and I do think that there's quite a few screens out there that probably have that shape actually. So you might even intentionally be trying to make that happen. So that's perfectly okay. I'm just showing you how to do it to replicate the burner that this kit is intending to make. Still working. Okay, it's really starting to stick now. It's actually really close now, and I think I'm actually quite satisfied. It's not right on top of them, but it's just really good. And as the canopy glue is setting up pretty good at this point, I'm just about to call it quits. So just a few last little checks here. The original intention of these tabs were not only to mark where these things go, but also to serve as a piece of material with which to do a little bit of the welding. But as I just kept doing this, I just realized it wasn't really necessary to weld it. So the canopy glue provides plenty of strength, and the welding is somewhat risky at this point. The material is very thin, and it wouldn't take but just one little misslip and it could ruin the whole thing. So I would advise you to avoid welding or going that direction with it at this point, because if you bought a kit and you've just got maybe one or two of these things in the kit, maybe you've got what you got, and you'll have to call me if you need more parts. Okay, that's it. We're there. I probably was off screen for the last half an hour, but there we go. All right, so then the last one is just dropping in right at the top, and that just, I can see it just moved these outbound laterally just a little bit here. Last one. So again, same thing. This one we just don't have to do much. There's no way to. It's too dished out in here. There's no way to force it up any higher. So it drops in, and it is where it is. All I have to do is just center it. I'm so tempted to push this thing down here. Get this thing. I'm going to move the camera. So I'm just looking very carefully, inspecting the relationship between the edge of the ring and those nubs to try to decide, is it really lined up? Or what do I need to do to make it so that it's the same, just a few micrometers distance different? They're all, I want them all to be equidistant. That's the word I'm looking for, I guess. That is really close. It's got to be. And I can turn it over and inspect it from the side as well to see if I'm happy with it. I mean, I think it's all right. Look at it from the top too. Yeah, that's looking good. So kind of a blurb of glue there. If I touch that, am I going to mess it up? Blue eye. Okay. Okay. So we've glued in our internal support rings, and it's great. I'm going to just set it down. Don't mess with it. On the table it goes, and come back to that in a little while. Thank you. The flat, take one. Hello again. I almost forgot. We need to place this part right here called the flat onto the bottom of this now almost totally assembled basket screen. So I've waited overnight, and these internal reinforcements are now totally dry. So this is very much as strong as it's going to be. And here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take this object here, and I'm going to place it on the bottom, and I want to align the arms of the flat with the arms of the basket. So that's how it was on the prototype. So I need to do that. And there's one other thing I want to do. If you have a little solo cup like this one, which is a little plastic, I don't know if this is the Solo brand, but it's like one of those little condiment cups. You can place the whole thing in that, and it helps to kind of hold it and stabilize it without pushing on the base ring here, okay? Because I don't want to put any pressure on the base ring while I'm going to do what I'm about to do. I need to weld this in place. So I've got the iron right here hot on 200 Celsius. And I might use a couple of these clips here, these little miniature alligators, to clip, see if I can clip the flat onto the base ring. One moment while we see if that's possible. I was wanting to lift up on the other end, but I might just hold that down too. Now it's got that ring external on this flat, and we're actually going to have that gone by the time this is over, because we're going to trim it off, but we're also going to cut it with the soldering iron. So that external part's going away. So I've got this held, and one thing I want to talk about a little bit is this oil canning. This middle can go up and down, and I want to try to avoid tensioning this thing such that the middle wants to go up and down a whole bunch. So I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on that also. And so what I'm looking for now is a place on the perimeter here where I could do the weld, so I could connect the arm to the base ring. I just want to make sure that it's on there in the middle as best as I can get it. So I'm kind of fool around here a little bit, these clips are not perfect. I have never tried a clothespin, but I'm tempted. Okay. It seems like it's really hard to hang on to this thing. So it seems like if I push on it like that to hold it, I've effectively tensioned it, and I'm going to have a serious oil can effect on the middle of this thing, and it'll be sticking up in our view when we finish the whole part. want to do is push on it while I clip it though. See if I can get it right. So this just preparing this whole maneuver takes a little time. You can't clip it right here because there's a post in the way. All right, that's probably about as good as I'm going to get it. So I'm just going to go ahead now, and it's not quite in the perfect center, but I think it's going to be okay for at least getting one side done, and then maybe I can go to the other side. I'm going to go for this top part right here, and the light in here is not great on that. I'm going to weld the arm, but not the ring, okay? So I'm going to make one, let me see if I can get in here with the camera a little better. Okay, right there. I'm going to make one kind of clean cut swipe with the iron right there. It's going to release that ring, and I don't want to get in here because then it'll be too short. Now I've pretty much separated it, but of course it re-welded itself. So what I'm going to do now is take the clips off. Now I know there's no tension across the thing. Okay, so I'm going to come back around to the other side. I'm pushing on it, but I'm going to check. See if I can get that clipped. Okay, well, it's not quite in line. Now, you know, if it, I mean, I'm just going off the chart here with the details, so it's not the end of the world if it's not perfect. And so now I've got this one I want to show you, right? That guy, that back in there, and this right here, those are lined up. And so that's ready for a weld right there. And that's going to, basically after that, I won't need the clips anymore. And I'm staying away from the middle of it. Just see how that popped out there? You know that got cut off of there. So now I'm going to undo this. And now I'm going to go grab my side cutters, flush cutters. Okay, well, before I do the cutting, I'm going to weld the rest of them. And I'll do that while the little solo cup's hanging onto it. And I'm staying away from the inside edge of that base ring, because if I cut that thing too close, it's going to fall in there and it'll be disaster. So I just want to do that right there. And I'm leaving, get in there, really get in there. Okay. You can see I've left material here, right in there, all right? But out here, that's where the cut is on the outer edge. Okay, I'm gonna work my way. I'm gonna kind of skip around here a little bit and do that. So do another one here, right there. I'm doing this without my magnifying lens, so it's not great. I normally do this under the magnifying lens. I've said that a few times. Skip around, maybe just get to the other side here, go for right here. And don't push on that sucker, but maybe very, very little. Okay, right there. All right. Now I can pretty much work wherever. If I squeeze the ring, like I don't want to say. If I squeeze that base ring, like, still not zoomed out enough, like this, if I go like that, then I'm turning it into an oblong, and that's not going to be good at all. The screen will not, it won't look right when we're all done. So I've got to try not to squeeze it. I'll do one kind of zoomed out here, right there. Okay. So I'm pretty much welding it and severing the outer ring at the same time. but I'll still need my flush cutters because it kind of tends to, the plastic just dries and then it re-welds itself onto there. So that solo cup's really helping. Put that in the camera right there. When I get this off of here, I got to come back around and do a little more work. I'll show you. All right, they are all done initially. So now set the iron down. Okay. I don't need the cup now. It's all done. Get that out of there. I'm going to trim this off. So I cut right here. Let's show that there. There's a little gap right there, and that's what I'm going to nip that right there. Okay, and then maybe just right up to where that's cut. There, comes right off of there like that. Okay. Now it may come undone. I think that one came undone. That's okay. We're going to redo it as long as the whole thing doesn't come off there. That one just was totally cut by the welding process thing. Okay. All right, this has got a lot of extra here, so I'm just kind of like working with sheet metal or something. Cut that off of there. So at this point, it's not done because we have a very weak bond right here, okay, on these little, but I got the circle thing gone. I don't need that. So I'm back to my iron now, okay, and I'm going to just go back to each one of these. I just want to get way the heck in there and do a little refusion on them here. And stay the heck away from in here, because if you cut it right there, it's a goner. Well, you could fix it, but you would have to get out some scraps and fool around, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. I mean, I'm sure they've repaired sawdust burners in the history of sawdust burners. That's for sure. Lots of fixes on these things. But we're just trying to make life easy here as much as we can. Get it done right the first time, so to speak. Okay, they're all swiped and wiped and welded and everything else. So that's great. So iron's going down. There it is. Now I check and I look in this plane and I go, hey, how oil canned is it? And it's just fine. It's not, it's totally flat. So that's one little thing. So that means I know that this is still a circle. I don't have anything weird going on. It's not tensioned one way or the other, in or out or anything like that. So we are ready for the next step. That's going to be the application of the actual screen material. This is dry. This is ready to go. Bring in the tube of hosiery right there. And with the iron, we don't need the cutters anymore. Put those out of there. Sorry, I bumped. And okay, so what I do now, you'll be tempted to want to cut this thing right away, but don't cut it. Just we're going to slip it over the whole thing. A little bit grabby. Over there. Okay. So this is going to be like a process of like going around and around and giving it a little more tension. So this is this bottom part, which you think, hey, I need to cut that right now. Don't cut that. Just give that a little tension and pinch it, just like that. Not a ton. And we want to kind of keep even tension on it, but that should be easy to do. It's not hard. We need to basically start somewhere. So we're going to get an edge here. That's plenty. Doesn't need to be any more than that right now. And we're going to just do a little weld right here. This is the tap system right here. And I'll do it with the camera in the out, not zoomed in for a second. And that's it. So now I'm going to do it zoomed in. You see those little guys right there. That's where it's now secured, at least on that outer edge. So we're going to do it on the outer edge and the inner edge. But I kind of skip back and forth. So I've done one edge here, and it's stuck on there, even though I haven't really tested it yet. I do this edge, and I'm going to go over to this edge. Okay, so spin it around, and now I do want to kind of not tension it, but not, doesn't have to be a ton. I can't again provide an objective value here. Just you can see the holes in the screen are roughly so. So it's not very tight. Certainly not yet anyway. You know, by and large this thing will get tighter, but you're not going to get looser. So okay, so there it's like that's like maybe I worked in between one of the little sections here on the flat. I don't know if you can see the arms in there or not, but that's, I did that. And now I'm going to go 90 degrees perpendicular here, other way, and work. I kind of pulled it tight, a little bit tighter, not, didn't take much. Going right along here. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's not a tap. It's not a tap like that, but I'm kind of actually kind of just dragging the middle fattish part of the iron across the right there. All right, and again, 180. Pull. Okay. A little tension, not overly tension. Okay, and so I've got this and this sealed up and that way. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go now and do the in-betweens. So there's actually two of them there. I'm just going to go kind of through the middle. Okay, 180. Okay. Now I'm kind of getting lost, so it's okay. Just go wherever. Now I'm going to pull it up right here, but I can't let it back out if I do that because it's got a hole in the screen. So unless I want a hole in my finished thing. Okay, so now I pulled it up, I pulled it a little bit tighter. This is why you want to avoid putting too much tension on it, because it can get tense or more tension, but it can't have less because you'll just be unhooking it, and it does kind of unhook, but it will essentially you'll have holes in your screen. Now I'm pretty much just working my way around, I think. And I'm just kind of crossing my fingers that it's going to come out even. I don't really know. I'm not. I could kind of play with it and check it, but I think we're okay. It's a bit of a guess at this point. How I haven't had them come out too badly. Okay, I should have quite a bit more to do. Oh, we're actually getting really close here. Okay, so that little guy right there. So right there, there's a little fold in it right there, and I'm just gonna lift. Try to get off there. There we go. Okay, and you can see that there's a hole here. Okay, and so if I want a perfectly intact screen, which never existed on the real ones, by the way, then I have to pull it tighter. Okay. Good. Just looking around now. So, like I said, I'm going to do the outer edge, but then I'm going to do the inner edge too, and it'll never come off of there. Now, it's time to cut it, right? Nope, don't cut it. Okay. Do a little system check here, see how straight we are. I think we're looking okay. We've got good symmetry all the way around, nothing lopsided or irregular or unusual. You can push this around a little if yours didn't come out quite right. You can actually scoot it inside the arms of the spider and the rings, and it'll scooch for you a little. It's not glued here. So this one is, I've done like a whole bunch of them now, so this, I'm getting the hang of it. So what I want to do is weld it to the inside edge now. So I'm going in here. I've got a piece of it here. This is a bit of a kind of a rolling motion with the tip. Just going like that. Set my iron down once in a while. You can just go all the way around the circle. You don't have to skip back and forth. Careful you don't hit one of the flat arms, the thing called the flat. Don't hit those. They'll just melt. Kind of just I pull the material out of the way with my thumb. I'm right-handed. Try not to squish. Try not to squish the whole thing. It's really easy to do. I think we're good here. I don't know why, but it seems like there's a spot right here that needs it. Okay, all right. I think that might be the deal. All wrapped up. So right there, but there's an arm under there. So if you're gonna get near there, you got to be careful. Right there. Then when we put this in the burner, the cone, it's going to get glued in there with canopy glue, so it's really not coming apart. The screen's not going to slip off the thing. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Enough shenanigans. Let's do it. Sharp scissors, please. Okay, just cut straight across first here. I've found that it's kind of helpful to, you don't want to cut it and remove it, so you got to leave a little bit on there. I think I'm shooting for about a 2 or 3 millimeters there, just right in on the edge. And try to get a little bit of tension on it, makes it easier to cut. And don't cut those flat arms either, of course. Just things to look out for. So easy to get the tip of the scissors under there and basically just cut it right in half. It's also easy to push on the thing, and it's fragile, you know, and no magic. Right, that thing has just got to go. Scrap. Okay. All right. So I could fool around here trying to trim up more of this stuff, but it's really hard to say if that's really going to matter at this point. Sometimes I pull on it and cut it with the tweezers like that, but you try to hold it and pull with the tweezers and cut it all at the same time. Ugh. Okay. That. Oh, I got a tiny little piece off there. All right. So don't know that it's. Sharp scissors, I'm telling you. Okay. If I screw it up, I'm gambling here. You know, I got a nice deal right now going, so I don't need to make a mistake and have the whole thing flopping around. So we're good. We're good. You know, I checking here. Look at this oil can. For whatever reason, see that? It's gonna happen. Okay. I haven't really avoided one yet totally. Now I didn't have this when I went into this hole. Maybe it's caused by the tensioning of the screen, you know, and it's pulling on that base ring, but boom, just like that, oil can. Not horrible, but it's just something doesn't seem too real to me. But again, it's a model. Okay. It's a drum. Yep. It almost makes an audible noise. This is done. Don't forget to unplug your iron. Next step, we'll put it in the burner. I didn't mention hardly anything about the prototype burner yet, really, too much. Just took one of the photos I had and pasted it onto a piece of paper here, or cardboard, and just wanted to kind of point out, I was talking earlier about that screen up top and sort of that vertical part of it there, where it just sort of launches it. Here's the slope of the of the cone going up, 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 and then it hits the screen and just goes straight up. And it's pretty much straight up almost all the way to that first reinforcement ring there, which is actually in the real one a piece of rebar, I think. And then it starts to curve over towards the top. You'll notice on the real one too, there's a little bit of a dip in the middle. I wasn't able to recreate that in this model. Not going to worry about it too much. And so there's our top, and as we're getting it together here, and you can put that right in there. Hopefully that'll go in there. That's next. Hold on. Okay, I'm back at my little gluing station here, and so what I need to do is try to fit this burner screen top down inside the cone. So this is removable. So for the moment, I'm going to set that aside and just focus on trying to get this down in the hole. And do you remember I said that this first ring, we would make it removable by just using the glue in just a few places. So really now's the time to remove that. You can kind of play here first though, just to see. Now there, it just went right in there, and there's the lip of the base ring just above the paper. So what our goal is to have that just like that, but all the way around. So I'm going to try to push it back out. Now here's where I could be pushing on it to position it from working inside the cone, except that thing's in the way right there, that ring. So if I take that ring out of there, then I can work from the other direction. So I just kind of like to play with it first a little bit just to see that we're on track. It doesn't actually look too bad with that ring in there, and I could paint it black if I really didn't want to remove it. So there's options here. Boy, for this one, it just fits so nice. I'm really tempted to just want to go forward with it and not even worry about it. But you know, I don't know if I'm just that kind of person. I might just have to rip that thing out of there and see what kind of trouble I get into, because it just wants to fit here so nice. Oh, look at that. And I try not to crush with my fingers by squeezing and pulling the basket here. Very gentle with the basket. It's all done. We don't need to thrash it. Oh, it's so tempting. You just want to pull it up into there. All right, so as you can see, I'm having problems. So it's lopsided. It's not on there right. So I'm going to kind of pivot it there. It's coming out, and this is coming out. Okay, so that's got to go. So it's only glued in 4 places. You should be able to pretty much, it's going to tear the construction paper a little teeny bit, and I want to watch out that I don't tear a hole in it, because then I would have to do a patch job, and that would be totally realistic. So a matter of machismo here, right? Ooh, okay, and it really should go out the bottom and not rip it up through the top. Okay, good. The ring is gone. Now I can work. Okay, I can get my, I'm not worried about that. Right. I can work right through that hole. I can put that in through there. Okay. Okay. So now something to push with. I just happen to have on hand a really long paintbrush. Okay. And I can get the handle of that thing in there. So you can get a stick or a chopstick or something. I don't have any glue on it yet. The best way to do this is to get it right where you want it. And you can see I can get up in there and push on it without having to look at what I'm pushing, okay? Because I'm watching it from out here, from outside, because I want that base ring on that top to just, I just want to see just the edge of that thing right there. Now it doesn't want to stay put. It wants to slide back down the cone. But if I can get it to stay put just a little bit, oh boy, that's looking good right there. Oh, right there. Look at that. Oh, it's just such a, oh, that's looking great. Oh, we got it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is work from inside the cone. I got to get my canopy glue ready here. It's a one-handed operation at the moment. Actually, I'm just going to dip my brush right in there. Not this brush. I need, hold on, hold the bus. I need that brush. Okay. Okay, double check. It's good all the way around. I can see the lip. I can see the lip of the base ring just barely above. The base ring is not a very prototypical part. It didn't even have that. It was totally welded to the arms of this guy. Okay. All right, but it looks good. It's even all the way around. I know the top is going to protrude evenly from the cone all the way. So back to the inside, and now I get some, oh, I'm going to zoom out. Get some good old canopy glue on my brush, like a bunch of it, okay? And don't worry about that little drip. That's going right there. Right on top of the hosiery. You can see that. I'm looking in there. Okay, I am way in there. And when that stuff dries, it's just not coming out of there. Now, don't squeeze the cone, because if you squeeze it, it's going to come shooting out of there. I'm trying to help you get all the frustrating things that would mess with you out of the way so that you just have a nice clean operation. It's kind of a canopy glue mess, but it's going all right. Quite a bit. I pretty much saturate it with this stuff. Just kind of wipe it around to get the thinner it is, the faster it will dry. Oh boy, it's already kicking off. I can't even believe how fast this stuff, how that fast that goes. All right, that is where we're at. It's all around the inside of that thing. And it won't be on our screen. Okay? So that's what I figured out. Okay. And now, hold on. Here we go. Okay, so that will dry, and it's good. It's positioned the way I want it all the way around. It's not quite in line. You know, I forgot to mention lining it up with these vertical lines, but these are going to get painted. I presume you're going to paint the model, so these vertical printouts on the paper, they're going to go away. So what's important is that we align the external iron. Has to be in line with the basket. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to come back and we're going to work on that in a minute. I'm back. I wanted to talk a little bit about options here for these last few steps. So what I've been doing is, once I verify that I can get this wireframe down over the paper cone the way I want it, then I have been putting white glue on the whole cone all over the sides, and then the final move on that is to position this in line with the same lines that are on the basket and push it down nice and tight and hold it until the white glue sets. You could also use canopy glue, but it might take quite a bit of it, and it's expensive relatively. So that seems to fit down over there on this one pretty darn well. If it hangs up, it's going to hang up on these paper edges on the very top, are going to hang up on that second down little horizontal rung there. So that's where that'll get screwed up. So then you got to get under there and kind of push it and get the tweezers under there or something to kind of release it where it's catching on there. And you'll probably have to do that even when you apply the glue to it. So once it's way down on there and there's glue under there, it's going to be very hard to move it laterally or side to side. So you want to make sure when you come down with it onto the paper cone that you are aligning it also with the verticals here and the verticals in the basket. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is take the whole shebang over to the other room where there's a bunch of white glue and glue it there. All right, so major glue ops 101 here. I'm going to pour myself up some fresh white glue. There we are, plenty. Okay. And I got the cone and the squeegees, and I'm ready to do it. All right, so this is coming off. Set that aside. I don't know if I'll use that big one or not, but dip. You could also do this with a brush. And try to get all the surface area, and try not to get it on the screen up there. That'll fill your holes real quick. I don't know of an undo button for that if you get it in the screen. Washing it does not seem like a good idea at this point. So quality is not a matter of chance. Yeah, right. I didn't forget anything. Holding it by the internal support cardboard ring. It's kind of a nice handle. And I just want to get off any major blobs if I can. Yet still have some wet glue everywhere I'm at here, everywhere I go. If you got glue on your fingers, that's what shorts are for. Okay, set that down. thing. Line up the verticals with the verticals. I did bring my tweezers with me, so I'm not ready to deal with the edges. Oh, metal tool right there. Lucky guy. There's not another chance. Right. Oh, out of screen. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just getting this right down to the edge of the cardboard. Boy, it's drying fast. Sometimes you can pull on the bottom one, but boy, don't pull too hard. Oh, oh, I goobered my screen a little bit. It's in line. It's in line with the, boy, it's just so easy to lose it and not be paying attention to that when you're trying to get the thing down to the edge. The glue's setting up lightning fast. Even white glue is fast drying, right? It's down there. It doesn't go all the way to the bottom, but it's pretty nice. And you know, I could cover that with some weeds or okay, I'm there. That's it. We're just done with that. That thing needs to dry. It's I tried wrapping a rubber band around it one time and it just goes shooting off there. So I'm not going to try that. You could hold it, but it's just such a nice fit. I don't feel like I need to do that even. The places where I can see right here, there's a gap right there between the, I don't know if you can see that on the screen or not, but there is a gap right there. And so that, I don't know if I'm going to fix that right now or not. Try to push it up there and no, maybe that is the way to go. It's going to want to come off of there. It's not going to want to stay on there. And that's because the cone isn't, you know, it's not perfect. If you could put a balloon inside this thing and blow it up, maybe that's the answer. Haven't tried that yet. So maybe I should just stick here with it for a little while and push on it and be patient and make sure that it's stuck so that I don't have a big old gap later. Just kind of work my way around and keep doing that. And get my hand way up in there. Well, at this point, I'm not really doing anything, but I seem to have eliminated most major gaps. And my fingers are getting so sticky that I'm more likely to pull the framework off the paper than maintain it, so, or make it better. So I think I'm just going to call it quits at this point, and that is all she wrote right there on that cone and frame job. It's a wraps. Let that dry good. Go check your iron, make sure it's unplugged. Good morning. Well, at this point, our sawdust burner is now partially complete. We've got the iron siding glued on, got the top glued on, and we're really just coming down to the final details at this point. So what remains are the exterior reinforcement rings, of which there are 3, and also we have the vents, which there are 2 sizes. I don't seem to have the smaller ones here, and there are some doors which I am manufacturing at the moment. And once those, the ladders, once those are applied, then it's off to the paint booth, and I think at that point we are closing in on a finished sawdust burner. So just wanted to talk a little bit about some of these details and maybe show a little bit of how I apply them. Still kind of just working out the details on printing these vents. This is a print of the lower vent, which is the larger vent, and there's 1 in every column. So what you do is just kind of clip off some of the stuff that's artifact of printing it, and you got to kind of pick out this thing, and don't poke yourself, but somehow you got to get a hold of this is a little part of it that they program in there just so that it will print correctly. Sometimes you can push it through there. There we go. All right. Get a super zoom on that. Coming into focus. Alright, so that leaves us with a hollow vent, and one edge is beveled at 45 or so, and so that then needs to be applied. And I just use canopy glue, and it's going right here. 1, 2, there's going to be 20 of those all the way around. I'm kind of pinching mine and damaging it here. Alright, so I dip in canopy glue and then we'll apply it. Yeah, okay, I got ahead of myself and then I dropped the part anyway. So I think maybe what I really should be talking about here is the rings. And so here are the rings that come in the kit, the external support rings, and you could be applying those right over the top. Now, how far down do they go? Well, on our prototype photo, zoom in here, there's the first one. Looks to me like there's the door. Now you can't quite see the bottom down here. I think that is the lowest, right in the weeds is the lowest vertical band of sheet metal. So our ring, the first ring, then go up from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's pretty much right in line there with that eighth vertical band, and I think we're falling in there pretty good if you look at ours. See where we're at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in top line. So it's actually supposed to go down a little bit lower. All right. So we'd have that one. Maybe it needs to be resized. And then this guy over the top. I think that one's better, but it's here. So we're you get that little half distance one, and then 1, 2, 3, 3.5 maybe on the way down. So half one, 1, 2, 3.5. I think that one's a little bit more properly sized. And then the top one, which is just almost right at the top. Okay. So these things are close. This one might be a little small. Maybe I grabbed the wrong one. I don't know. And we can canopy glue those on with canopy glue, and then we can do the vents, then the ladders, etc. And what I do is I just kind of place it on there and come in with the canopy glue, just like that. And it won't be snug up against in every possible location, but this will get it started. So one thing that's important to me is to make sure that this thing is level all the way around and not tilted. So to do that, I will apply the glue, but then I'm going to go round and round and make sure that I have it where I want it, because as the glue dries, we have a little bit of mobility there to make a change. So actually that is pretty darn close at this point. If I bump it on one side, it kind of ricochets through to the other side if I go too far, so you got to be really conservative about adjustments here. That's looking okay. Just do a little, if I squeeze the cone, the deal's over. So this is the horizontal check here. You can see some gaps. Those are fixable. Come in, little canopy glue, get my brush and just tuck it right underneath there. Might be able to push that up there, but the glue will have to be way drier. So that's something that you just kind of work on over time. What would be neat is if we could figure out how to inflate the paper. If we could get the paper to absorb some water, then we could get some of this protruding detail that where the metal heated up so much and you can actually see it kind of sticking out a little bit in the frame. So there's options here in the kit to try to come up with something if you're daring. Right now I'm not too daring. Maybe later. You could even maybe consider slipping some paper in underneath the wireframe, like real thin craft paper. I have some of that. It's going to play with it. It has to be cut right, but that could replicate or serve as good looking sheet metal, or you could use real metal like aluminum, or I think brass would be expensive and maybe not necessary, but you know, whatever you have, copper, I don't know, a lot of different ways you could go. Alright, so let's say we've got the bottom one going on up to level 2 here. This is the ring without the structure, just a very simple ring. Same deal. top ring. There's a bottom and a top to these. You can do it either way. One side is perfectly flat and the other side has a little bit of relief. And I think I intended for this side with the relief to go down, but it kind of looks neat going up, so it's really up to you. Putting it down though, because that was the original intention. And then these little lines on the real model, or on this guy back here, the little I'm not sure what to call this, but it's a little short 20 something inch part, or 16 inches in HO. That little nub right there is meant to be welded on the prototype. It is welded to the vertical strut here. Okay, so if we align those up, that is prototypical to have those aligned, not in the middle like that. We want it like that if you want it to be absolutely as intended. Let's see if I can get a little close up there. I've got it. Got a line. Yeah, those are lined up right there. All right. More canopy glue. Alrighty. So I would advise this to dry before doing much more. I think at this point we could do the vents. It's going to dry quick, so alright, so see these are bottom vents here. We need 20 of these things. Alright, so I stopped the video actually because I was having a pretty tough time cleaning up the vent 3D printout, the larger vents. And this is something that's a little difficult to do right now, and I hope to improve on it in the coming days and weeks as I go into production mode on this kit. So this is a tougher part to print, because it's got to have this internal support, and I think and I need to do a little more experimenting with just setting this one up. But I have 20 what I would consider to be pretty scrappy prints here that are they will work as vents. I've got some dead ones over in this corner. You know, I might use those parts, I don't know, but I think I can get something together here and get it canopy glued onto the cone. Well, I need literally just 2 more here, and so just to kind of keep the show on the road, I am using ones that I probably wouldn't normally use, but kind of just piecing together the last little bit of this lower vent detail with some pretty serious scrappy stuff here. So I literally just glued one back together here. That's it. I am not touching it. All right. Vents, lower vents. They're on there. I want to show you one thing you can do. We were just waiting on the glue to dry on those rings. Now I can come in here and just add a little more underneath. Right there. That guy's on there. All right. Now I tend to just kind of go back and want to add a little more glue to things by just painting it on, just to keep things from flying away someday, making it as strong as I can. And I haven't even gotten to the mid-level vents here, but I'm just going back and brushing on a little reinforcement here. That's like the worst one. This one's pretty bad. Okay, so I don't have the mid-level vents in the rust color. I have them right now, just available in the gray. So everything's getting painted. I'm not too worried about it, but you need 16. I'll definitely throw an extra in the pack. These little things are so tenacious. They're just kind of fragile and hard to isolate and get prepped up and ready to go. So these are going to go. Just taking a look at our deal here. Where's the, okay, there's the ring. There's the damaged one on the real guy. Right here. So that's that lower reinforcement ring. Okay, so they're right above. They're just right, they're right in here, actually. Okay. So, and I mean, you could put them one up if you just wanted to make it a little easier, but staying true to our goal. I'm going to trim all these up now. So maybe I should talk just a little bit about cleaning one of these up. So this is just the tiniest little thing. I don't even know if you can see that, but I've pretty much trimmed off all the extra stuff. There's a 45 bevel here, and then I push the internal support, which you could actually leave it in there. It's not the end of the world if it's in there, but just trying to make them hollow. I push this through towards the beveled end. I'm finding that it comes out better there. I give it a little bit of a shove and then a pull, and it comes out. And that leaves me hollow. Now I can squish that real easy, so I got to be careful not to. All right, that was the last one. Next thing, we'll put them on. All right, so I think now I have 16 or so of these little guys, and I have some extras too. So I'm pretty much ready to apply them to the mid-level zone here on the model. Yeah, I've been saying 16. It's not 16. It's 10 of them. I'm just not doing my math right. I only need 10 of them. I have 16 of them, which is great now. But if I go every other one and there's 20 columns, if you do the math, well, I think you know what I mean. So I've got some canopy glue. It's getting a little old. It's drying up, but it's working. And we are going, let's see, roughly here. I'm just looking at the photo there. Okay, that's wet. Okay, I think they're good. Yeah, that's the only gray part on the whole thing right now, but hey, we're all right. I'm gonna pause it and come up with some ladders. I did find some ladder stuff here laying around. It printed out in gray, which I was kind of hoping for brown, but to be made in the future. I will use the gray and see how it goes. Just looking at the photo a little bit about where the ladder is. Here we can see it there. It's kind of a side view. So it is braced off of that upper external support ring deal. And wow, it just ends kind of in the middle of nowhere and then goes all the way down. Now you can see right there, there's a little attachment point. So we could do that. That's not on a ring or anything. There's two of those. There's that one, and then there's another one here. Then it looks like we're bouncing off an external ring, which we have. And moving on down. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this, just to kind of keep things going, I'm going to place ours basically just on the rings. And if you want to come in with more detail than that, you can do it later. But that'll kind of make things happen here. So here we go. Wow, this one length of ladder just seems to be just about right. I don't know how that happened, but it's just the right length. So sometimes you win. That's all I can say. Look at that, one piece, the whole deal. Wow, maybe, I don't know, could I have planned that earlier? I'm not really sure. Might not have chose the best spot here. I got it going right over one of the bottom vents, but Okay, same thing. I'm just going to paint a little bit. Canopy glue on there. All right, so just don't touch it for a minute. While that ladder is drying, I just want to talk a little bit. One thing I neglected to really talk about, or to move on here on this sample burner, is the door. So here's the door frame, and so I think in order to do the door, it probably would be prudent to do a little better planning on where that's going to go in, and maybe get some of the cutting away before the vents are added. So that's something I'm going to pursue on maybe the next model here, but I just want to wrap up the video on the construction aspect of this so far, and maybe just move on to a quick rundown on the painting, airbrushing, which I think is also probably a different genre really, but I'll go over it just to kind of come up with a more complete model at this point. So that ladder is going to dry, and the next thing you're going to see is me in the paint booth. So talk to you soon. Okay, I have a fairly large painting booth. Let's see if I can shoot a little of this. This is a chalky brown. I used a chalk paint to make this mixture. Okay, maybe trim off this part of the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot the paint up through the bottom and paint as much of this as I can. That's going to shadow the hosiery screen, which should be a good thing, because the screen otherwise will look heavy. We can actually make it look thinner, even finer than it is right now. So by painting it black on the inside, a little bit of that black will creep around. Okay, so there we have it. You can see the black on it, and it's just back, sort of like, instead of backlighting, it's like the opposite of backlighting. It's like back darkening. And so that left then the screen bars. Now we're going to paint it from this side too, with the rust. It's just, it'll make it a little harder to overdo it. We could even paint it black here, but that would be adding more maybe than necessary, although I see the flat inside there is no, it's great. We can see it. If it's black, we can't see it, so that's good. And this is, you know, essentially the black paint maybe represents soot, although I didn't see it on the one that I observed, but I would imagine that there would have been soot. All right, stay tuned. I will come back and do some rust. All right, so I found some rust color. I don't know if it'll come out or not. We'll find out. These are just cheapy Harbor Freight airbrushes. Nothing fancy at this point for this. Okay, so I've got a rust color that's working. For sure I want to paint all these gray things in the rust. I'm up about 25 psi on the compressor. Alright, let that dry. No heat. No heat drying. No pink box. No illegal stuff. This thing will melt. So, there we go. We'll hold off a little bit here. Well, I'm not sure what I was shooting there. I think this is a little darker. This is actually what I was intending. Oh, it's all good. Just paint it. Let that sit for a little bit. Okay, well, it dried and I'm okay with this first coat, and it's a little shinier actually than I was expecting. So I might do a little dull coating or something there. Now, I could just go on and be videotaping how I would go about weathering this, which would be chalks and all kinds of things, mineral spirit type oil paints, that sort of thing, and that's all great. I think everybody at this point is going to differentiate and have their own version of how to go forward from here. So I think we've pretty much steered the course here, and arrived at our, for what I would say right now, our final destination. Of course, we still need to do that door, and that's an interesting feature, at least probably something you'd see, I would imagine, on most of these burners, but you know, I don't know much about other burners. I've just kind of been following this one, so I don't know what else is out there. There's a lot of different styles and different makes of these, so there's a whole bunch of history there, and I won't elaborate on that or what I know or don't know. So we're there, and good luck, and call me, write me, email me with any questions you may have. I want to help. I enjoy teaching, and this has been great. This has been a heck of a project. So we're going forward. I hope you enjoy your kit. Hope to hear from you. Thank you. Have a great one.